sometimes finding the key can be pretty tricky. For the most part, the first chord is almost always going to be kind of the tonal center, the key. We can typically use that major or minor scale and be good. Sometimes it doesn't work. So a couple things to remember is that we only have three major chords: 1, 4, and 5. So if we ever see a major chord, that means it can only be a 1, a 4, or a 5. All right? Just like if we see a minor chord, it can only be 3 chords: the 2, the 3, or the 6. So that means if we ever see a major or minor, that narrows everything down to 3 keys, because it can only be one of those 3 chords. So I'll give you an example of something like an A minor to a D. All right? If the whole song is A minor and D, we most likely think, okay, A minor works here. Now, if we start playing along, we're going to notice that there's a couple notes that sound a little bit goofy. So the big thing is that A minor's relative major is C, and if we're playing a C scale, we have an F note in the C scale. Sounds pretty normal, except when you go to that D chord, there's an F sharp in the D chord. So that means that we're actually not in the key of C or A minor. So what we have to do is, there's kind of 3 different ways that we can find this out. One is by going through my, I have a theory sheet that has all the keys and scales and chords and 7th chords all laid out in all 12 keys, and we can actually go through, find out which key has A minor and the D chord in it. All right, that's one way. Luckily, we can narrow it down to 3 keys depending on which major or minor chord we're looking at. Another way is going to be to actually go through the scales. So for example, we need that F sharp in there. So what kind of note has all natural notes except for one F sharp? All right, that's another way. I think my favorite way is to kind of get used to seeing these things through our chords as numbers cage shapes. So if we were going to go through C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, D, or C, that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. We would know that, well, can't be C because we have that D minor, not a D major. If we were to do the same thing in G, we would find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. There we go. We just found it. 1 or 2 and 5. All right? That's the only key that both has an A minor and a D chord in it. That worked out pretty nicely because we're using all open chords. What if we use something like, I don't know, B minor and E? All right. We can do the same thing. B minor, we can kind of anchor our first finger and try out at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. All right, so there's our 6th chord as the B minor, but that E was a minor, not a major. So let's just anchor our first finger again and try our G shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. There we go. Our E chord was now a major, so there we go. So I'm going to go through another common example. Something like A, G, D, A. Now, we have 3 major chords. So we know 1 is acting as the 1, 1 is the 1, 1 is the 4, 1 is the 5. So now it's just which one is which. So I'm kind of inclined to just try G real quick. But when I go to that, my 2 chord is a minor, not a major. All right? So which has both? Let's try something like D. Plug it in with my C shape. Looking for an A, G chord, and a D chord. We already had the D. E minor, safe so far. F sharp minor as my 3, safe so far. There's G. There's my A. There's my D. So there we go. D, G, A, that. Now this is where modes come into play. Some people think of modes as ways to work out scales all around the neck, which is a good way to find things. I like the cage system for that because you start and end on the root note that you're actually going for. The most appropriate way to use modes is actually going to be using it as a way to define a key center. So let me take that A minor to D, for example. Even though the correct scale would be a G, we wouldn't end that song on a G note. We would end that song on an A minor. So A minor is actually going to be our home base, but now we need to find the scale that goes along with that. And a G scale, starting from the second, or the A in G, is going to be a Dorian scale. So something like that is when you'd use something like Dorian. A lot of Santana songs and a lot of jazz stuff uses a lot of that Dorian scale for minor tunes.